everybody. Welcome to Campus Comics Cast, coming to you from Carbondale, Illinois, with special guests from the Campus Comics crew. And now, here's your host, the man with the previews in hand, Mike No.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Campus Comics Cast. This is Mike No, owner-operator here at Campus Comics, and as per usual, we were inside the store here on a Wednesday evening. We've just finished up our previous podcast, episode 30, right?
Episode 30, yep,
wrapped
just finished.
up. So this is the 31st episode. Yes, they say time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But covered the previews last time, so we're going to just spend a little bit of time talking now about some other stuff. And I think the first thing that we're going to start with is going to be just kind of our own feelings about Daredevil Season 3 and some other Netflix Marvel related stuff. So again, I'm Mike here at Campus Comics, and joining me for this is
Scott Reed
and Dan Brown.
All right, so I'm assuming we've all watched all of Daredevil Season 3.
Yes.
Then did you get
Yes.
Did you get it in?
Yes.
Okay.
and this
right.
will of course be spoilers.
Yeah,
Lots of
Spoilers.
Lots of
Big
spoilers.
time
I
spoilers.
did finish the season. I had to choke down the rest of Iron Fist first.
Oh, yeah.
Fell asleep a few times,
It'll do it.
but I did not fall asleep during Daredevil. I'll tell you that.
No.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts or just talking about the story itself, is the thing that struck me just about 3 episodes into this probably is just like you can watch the other Marvel stuff and think this is good, but then it just takes a little bit of Daredevil to realize how much better the
Yeah.
Daredevil seasons are than all the other stuff, in my opinion anyway.
Well, with the exception, I agree 100% with the exception of the Punisher. I really thought the
Yes.
Punisher was up there as well, quality-wise. as
Yeah,
Daredevil,
that's
so.
the possible exception.
Yes.
But I mean, but as far as, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, even, it's just like there's no comparison.
No.
So if you're only going to watch some of it,
Yes.
watch the Daredevil and Punisher stuff, and there'll be some plot holes in it, but you can fill it in with
Yeah,
context.
you can figure it out.
Yeah.
It won't be that
it's
hard to
not
figure
tough.
out.
They do.
so.
They do recaps and different things and.
Talking about stuff. So again, this is a 13 episode, season.
Yes.
Which
So-
was fine.
I was making sure. Yeah, 13.
Yeah.
Yep.
13 episode, which with Daredevil is fine. With
Yes.
some of them, it's too much.
I didn't feel like there was any
No,
filler in this season.
there was-
I enjoyed
There was a
all of
weaker
it.
episode to me, but I liked
Okay.
There
all
was
of it.
very little fat on this episode.
So I put together a reading list
Uh-huh.
for this season. So if you want to kind of see some of the origins of this season. So now these are the books that I thought you should maybe read in advance or read after the fact just to kind of see where the stories came from. But of course, Daredevil 131, which gives you the first appearance of Bullseye. Daredevil 227 to 233, which is the Born Again story arc. I think you should read the Daredevil 1 through 8, the Kevin Smith. There's a scene, there's a pretty scene which it doesn't end how it ended in this story, but it kind of, leads you to believe that something else is going to happen. We'll
for
talk
sure.
about that more then. And then because of the final scene in Daredevil's issue 196 to 200, which is where Bullseye gets his replacement skeleton. Or spine, I guess you'd say. Not skeleton, but just replacement spine. So,
Right. So, I mean, do you want to just talk episode by episode, or do we just kind of talk in general here about it? I mean,
well, I guess we could talk about like our expectations. Like, what were you thinking about this before you sat down to watch it? What was going through your mind as far as expectations?
It has to be better than Iron Fist.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
My only expectations. I knew it would be, and it was.
it was.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But that's not too hard to do.
No, not at this point.
Yeah. But, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like I sat down and I like I did on Iron Fist season 2. I like kind of took notes of like what I was thinking. So I did actually deliberately watch the recap just to kind of see, okay, what are we going to get out of Daredevil season 3? So it's like, well, okay, we knew that Wilson Fisk was going to come back. It's like, okay, so that happened. No Punisher, which that kind of made me a little bit sad, but
Right.
but I accepted that. We're going to get some resolution to that whole Karen Page Wesley scene back from season 1, and that Elektra will not be part of the season, which that didn't bother me at all. So
Yeah, me neither. So I guess really going into the season, all you really need to know, if you haven't watched all of it, you just want to watch the Daredevil stuff, all you need to know going into this season is at the end of Defenders, everybody thinks Matt's dead.
Right.
You know, they think Matt's dead. He's been MIA for a few months now, you know, and you get to where he's going on. But that's really all you need to know from the other stuff, you know.
Yeah, you don't even need to know the circumstances.
Exactly.
Of that,
you don't.
You know.
Yeah, you don't. But he does show up, you know, again. He lived, but he's not in good shape.
No,
no. Not in good shape. So that's right.
I'm thinking of one of the scenes early on, and it's just a little ridiculous. One of the scenes, but we'll talk about when we get there.
Okay.
So I guess we get to meet Sister Maggie pretty early, and if anybody who's read the comics, your first thought is, oh, we're going to finally get Daredevil's mom, right? So we get Matt's mother, which turns out to actually be the case, played by Joanne Whalley from I just know her from, wasn't she in Willow, right? So it used to be married to Val Kilmer.
Really?
I couldn't even tell you.
I think she used to be Joanne Whalley Kilmer, if I remember right. So yeah, she played a character. She's been in lots of stuff previously.
Right. Yeah, I had to look her up on IMDb. I didn't recall her from anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so maybe I'm remembering really somebody else. Yeah, she did an outstanding job as Sister Maggie. Mm-hmm. We get Daredevil now without Powered.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh great, how long is that going to last?
Right.
Fortunately, not very much.
Right. I do like that there are consequences though to what he's doing.
Yes.
You know, he's not Superman.
No.
Yeah.
You know, that's always kind of been a thing. Mm-hmm. So I do like that. You know, he deals with what happened. You know, he doesn't just shake off a building falling on him.
Right.
But it's a neti pot to the rescue.
Oh yeah. Boy.
Right.
My sister's been watching the show, and she totally texted me when that happened, saying that she has to go find her neti pot now.
Yeah. So the real hero of Daredevil season 3 is the neti pot. And that was probably one the most disgusting scene of what's coming out of his nasal cavities.
Yeah. But it
looks like it cleared him out pretty good though.
Yeah. So
really good.
And then we also get just talking about scenes in that when he goes to the rooftop in his black costume and he's hanging off the cross. It's just one of those iconic looking, homage type scenes there. So I really like that.
Right.
So he's powered back by the end of the first episode. So that didn't fortunately take too terribly long, but interrupts a kidnapping. And now there are a few things that kind of bothered me about this. So here he gets his powers back. He goes and saves somebody, and then he wants them to beat him to death.
Right.
It's just when I don't really see him just completely giving up. It's like, why do you even bother fighting to get his powers back?
I could see before he gets his powers back maybe doing that.
But the order just seemed wrong.
Oh. Yep, for sure. But shoot, I was going to say something, forgot. Go ahead.
Well, here, I'll keep talking then, and you can just interrupt me.
Yeah.
So so we also get to meet Agent Nadeem, played by Jay Ali. All right, and all of the actors in this were really top notch,
outstanding.
We get introduced to him, and of course they make this big deal about he was broke to help his sister out, and that's going to come into play at some point, and it does, but not how we think it's going to come into play.
That's the other thing too. Internally with the FBI, they say they are reluctant to promote him due to his bad credit, that he could be vulnerable. Is that a thing? I never even thought about that. That makes sense though.
Yeah, it makes him vulnerable.
And they didn't. It's not that they could actually maybe terminate him, because if he's reviewed and he has a problem, then that he would become a risk to security risk. So we do get at the end of episode 1 Vincent D'Onofrio playing Wilson Fisk, who still does an outstanding job.
Oh man,
making that deal to get Vanessa back. So every single episode after this, I'm like, okay, when's Vanessa back?
Right.
When's Vanessa coming back? How long is it going to be before Vanessa gets back? And it's a long time before we see her, but she does eventually make it back.
One of the things that we did not see in this was we're back to season 1 and the fact that season 1 he's running around in the black ninja suit, but we did get the suit right at the end. We do not see him in that.
Yeah, that's kind of my big problem with this season.
You know what I mean? He's never back in the suit.
We see the suit, not on Daredevil.
No, not on Daredevil. So.
And that really, I realize it plays into the story, but I really feel like it's a practical thing of, you always hear actors complain about how uncomfortable these suits are, and it's annoying. I feel like Charlie Cox just said, do I have to be in the suit? To which my response would be, you're playing a superhero. Yes.
That's kind of goes with the territory.
They kind of, conceded that to him is what it feels like when I watch it. It's like there's no real reason he couldn't be back in a Daredevil suit.
Right.
And the point that he said he he's no longer going to be Matt Murdock. He's just going to be Daredevil from that point on. Where's the suit?
Yeah. And skipping way ahead here, but to where he says, "I'm coming for the suit," led me to believe, okay, he's going to be back in the suit by the end of this. And he's not.
Nope.
Yeah.
So the first episode was named Resurrection, which I think was also a title of one of the Born Again issues, if I remember correctly.
I think so. I read it not too long ago.
Yeah,
I think that is right.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me. So, episode 2, I didn't have a whole lot. We get a little bit more backstory on Karen Page, Deborah Ann Wall. So she's pretty good as Karen Page. So Daredevil is the kidnappers that he fights from the first episode. He's able to track them down thanks to their all organic cleaning process.
Yeah, right.
So it's nice to know that the criminals in Hell's Kitchen are concerned about the environment.
Yeah, hey, they're keeping it green.
Yes. So, but the highlight for me in episode 2 is, Kingpin makes his deal, so he's getting taken out of prison to this hotel that we learned that he actually owns later on. But his caravan gets ambushed, and almost all the rest of the FBI agents that are escorting him are killed by, I forget which mob it was.
The Albanian.
The Albanian mob. And then all of a sudden he gets rescued by this random FBI agent who's ricocheting shots off of hubcaps and killing people. And it's like this was the best intro of any villain, I think, including the Marvel movie cinematic that we've had so far. I was just awesome introduction to Bullseye at this point. Played by Wilson Bethel, who had never seen him in anything before.
Right. I got to say this. I mean, I know they have to do this, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. It was great. It totally worked for the story. Just that comic nerd kind side of me, it's just like, this gives him a definitive backstory. You know what I mean? Which is not going to work for a live action, especially they're trying with Netflix to make these a little more grounded. You know what I mean? So it's not going to work. Just some random crazy guy that Fisk hires to kill some people, know. So, making it part of the FBI team that's on his detail to transport him and then, to contain him as that. But, just kind of, I don't know, it's just like giving the Joker an identity. You know what I mean? Right. It's like Poindexter was one of the names that Bullseye has used off and on throughout, so it makes sense. I get it. But I don't know. It was just a little bit of a nitpick with me.
Characters in these series are going to have a shorter shelf life.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I think you can get away to give them some type of an origin because you're not dragging a character out for, Bullseye was introduced in the 70s, right? So, he's a 40-year-old character anyway. So,
right.
I like it when they honor the comics, but I don't think we have to be exact. Like the first Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, I was actually bored watching that movie because it actually was so close that you knew everything that was going to happen. So there were no surprises. There wasn't anything. So I like having a little bit of a fresh story. I thought that was a pretty fresh take, and it's still just the ricocheting of the shots. I was just like, they understand the character, and I'm just like, why could they have not waited to introduce Typhoid Mary? I would have loved to seen how they would have introduced Typhoid Mary in Daredevil versus what we got in Iron Fist season 2.
Yeah, so. And his backstory wasn't my problem with Bullseye.
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay. Mine is the lack of a suit.
Yeah,
and the fact that we got hinted, and for those who've watched the show, Bullseye is the FBI agent that Fisk turns that we're talking about because they never refer to him as Bullseye on this show.
No. Right.
They have a Easter egg of a baseball cap when he's a kid, and again a sort of cliffhanger kind of thing later that makes no sense otherwise. Right. If you're not familiar with these characters, it's just an oddball kind of thing.
The only other thing that I would have wanted. Besides, I would like to have seen him in the costume once.
Yeah.
Right. But I also would have liked to seen him kill somebody with a playing card.
Yeah.
That was kind of his iconic move.
That's the other thing, though, too. Going back to the Daredevil live-action movie, we didn't get a regular Bullseye in that either. Right. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like there's a way to do it. They can figure it out by now.
I feel like we got closer, though, this time than what we got the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, they teased a suit in that. There's a line from the movie that I think was even in the trailer where he's saying, "I want a suit." And it never happens. It never pays off in that film. So just a history of Bullseye without his suit.
Yeah.
On episode 3, we get Wilson Fisk in the all-white suit.
Oh, yes. I had to do a screen grab just to text that today and say, "Oh," and he's like, "Sweet."
Yeah, they did do the ascot because they made the joke about the ascot, and they didn't give him the purple pants either. But that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been going too. Too far. We get a little bit more background on Bullseye. I actually had a note here. It's like, I hope we get to see him in costume, which we didn't get to see. And what else do I got here? Oh, Ben Urich was mentioned several times, and that is my one. Like, I don't know if regret is the right word from the first season of Daredevil. I really wish Ben Urich had survived, because a lot of times some of the best stories of Daredevil are actually told from the viewpoint of Ben Urich.
Yeah, and they needed a body to drop. Yeah. That's all that was. Look at how much they're referring to that character now. They definitely should have kept him around. They should have found another person that they could have taken out.
They have the other newspaper journalist. I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head.
Karen's boss.
Yeah, who was kind of taken over that role. But I also like that they really kind of played Bullseye as a psychopath. I mean, just from the get-go. There's no over-humanization of him.
And it's not just calling him a psychopath. Like you see, even in comics a lot, too. It's like he is deranged. There's something wrong with this guy.
He's like being interviewed by a psychiatrist. He's like talking about this girl and how he, explains all of his problems to her. So, and then you find out he's actually just stalking the girl. It's somebody that he used to work with. She was played by Holly Cinnamon, which sounds like a porn actress's name. But that infatuation does pay out later on in the series. And finally, this is the first time that Matt reveals that he's alive to somebody, so he lets Foggy in. Eldon Henson also amazing.
Oh yeah,
I think he's one of the best comic book castings ever.
I do.
That guy.
What's crazy is in this series, I think the weakest casting is Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock. And he's still good.
Yeah, he's still good. But it is the thing where you get just in superhero adventure kind of stories in general is you get a really strong supporting cast, but sometimes your main character is kind of lackluster in comparison to the rest. And then also in this episode, Fizz starts getting the hint that Daredevil's still around. So it's starting to come back out. So episode 4. So we have. Foggy's love interest is still around.
Yeah.
And Marcy, right?
Marcy,
played by Amy Rutberg. That character actually has grown on me.
Me too.
I like that character.
Yeah, she was kind of like this annoying, person there the first time she was introduced, but I actually, she's grown on me a bunch. Matt goes to the prison because he wants to find the guy that I forgot where he went to find the guy that. He wanted to talk to somebody.
He's trying to get a link to. He's trying to contact the Albanians.
That's right.
This guy's his connection to the Albanians.
So for the second time in the first 4 episodes, he uses I forgot my ID to try to get into someplace, and it's like really. So I felt like the writers. There was a few times here this season where I felt like the writing was a little weak. The neti pot.
There were a couple things that kind of irked me like that, and that was one of them. I'm trying to think what the other thing was. It's just I
probably have it in my list here. I'll get to it eventually.
There are just times when writers just want to do something and they don't think of a more creative solution on how to handle it, so you get some really forced things.
So maybe the other one was at the end of this episode. You have this whole prison fight that breaks out while Matt's there.
Okay, I was going to go back and rewatch this, and I haven't. Okay. Is it one shot? Because there's a really long shots during that scene.
I don't think it's one shot, but they kind of are trying to redo that whole. There is a fight scene that's kind of like the one shot, but the best fight in this scene in this whole series is in episode 6. Yeah, so it doesn't even matter, and it blows that fight scene from season 1 just way out of the water. But we have this prison riot that breaks out while Matt's in prison. And he does manage to get out after talking to the Albanians, and of course he walks out, and the cab is still waiting for him.
Right.
Doesn't even know anything's going on.
So
alarms are blaring. Hey, what's up?
But then,
you feel like you would have pulled up a little more. When the tear gas is going.
How much money did he pay that guy to wait for him? Is what I want to know.
Or did Foggy pay him?
Yeah, it was all Foggy's money. That's right. Yeah,
so Foggy's IDs, how he got into the prison.
How he got in. Yeah. But then the episode ends. Matt falls asleep in the back of the cab, and he wakes up, and the driver's been replaced, and the guy jumps out of the car to put Matt into the river. Really? You didn't have a gun to shoot the guy that's sleeping in the back seat?
Right. Yeah. Again, something directly from Born Again, though. Okay, that's straight out of that story.
Okay, I don't remember that part of Born Again. So.
There's a reason you don't. Okay. Because it's at the end. It's a cliffhanger, and they treat it like they do in this show, they don't show it happen.
Okay.
Oh,
Go
okay.
back and check. It's in there.
All
But
right.
it was like, that's something, even when I read that story, I was like, if they were doing that today, that would be a whole issue of him going into the water in that cab and breaking out and stuff. They treat it very similar to how they do in the show.
Okay, I'll have to reread that. I thought I read that like within the last year.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's
okay.
such a quick thing, which would never happen today for an action sequence like that.
Episode 5 is where we get a lot of flashback scenes. So I guess it's, if I remember right, it's Fisk is going through Bullseye's files. He's gotten his information, and he's kind of visualizing all these scenes from Bullseye's past.
That was a nice way to kind of work that into the TV show too, just more visual like that, instead of him just reciting something or listening to tapes.
And they did that. They did that both with Kingpin and with Matt Murdock, because Matt Murdock is talking to Wilson Fisk whenever Wilson Fisk is not there. So they're both kind of visualizing things that are going around. It was kind of a nice, like you said, nice thing. That's where we do get the Easter egg of Bullseye's logo on their team uniform symbol. And then this is where Bullseye kills his first person as a 10, 12-year-old kid. With a ricochet baseball to hit somebody in the back of the head, because he's a pitcher and he's throwing no hitters and he's getting pulled and he's mad.
Yeah.
So
kills his coach.
Yeah. And so very early on, we know this guy's he's not right.
Not right.
Yeah,
Yep.
which. And they didn't really pull any punches with that. And, there was like a couple of times they thought they were going to try to humanize him just a little bit, and they back off on him. So
I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Episode 6, I didn't have a whole lot on episode 5, I guess, other than they're talking about Karen murdering Wesley, and really, I really think it's self-defense. I mean, you can make a strong argument self-defense, but that's going to start to have some impact here on the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Episode 6, we get that Fisk is now kind of taken back over. He's basically taken over the FBI at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
And all his entire scheme is so well executed.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about bad writing. I like this. This is really well done. I feel like just the whole. It's just one thing after another. Just when they think they've got him, he's outthought them already. Just really well planned out. And it's just it's so frustrating for the protagonists. You really feel for them.
This is like the one time where I really felt that they did something wrong with the Bullseye character. As crazy as Bullseye is, he is not suicidal. So he basically nearly kills himself in this episode, and he's saved just in the nick of time by a phone call from Fisk, right? So so Fisk knew the timing of
right, yeah,
because he's that good, right? Knew exactly when to call him. But they kind of manipulated. I forgot what the girl's name was. Julie, was it Julie, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of manipulated Julie, stole her phone, blocked him from calling her. So it just kind of sent him over the edge. But really, this is the point where Fisk basically sends the costume to Bullseye.
Oh, yeah.
So we get this is the best fight I have ever seen in, maybe the only thing that in my mind that even comes close to this sequence is the beginning of Winter Soldier, where Cap gets on this ship and you finally see Captain America actually unloading on people.
Yeah.
This is that high quality of a fight. I mean,
Bullseye
is using everything as a weapon, and that is how he should be done. It was just so cool.
And they've had some great fights on this show before too. That's the thing. They really kind of raised the bar here.
Yeah.
And watching the shows, I'm like, okay, we've got the hallway fight in season 1. We have the stairwell in 2. You're watching like where's the signature fight for this season. There's some other good stuff. You're like, was it that? But when you get here, like this is it. This is the fight.
This is it.
I don't comment like on shows a whole lot on TV as I'm watching them, but as soon as I watched that episode, I was on Facebook and I said possible season 3 spoiler ... the best fight ever. I was just like, I was so blown away.
Yeah. And see, and what they talked about here is Fisk has sent the Daredevil suit to Poindexter, a.k.a. Bullseye. They don't ever call him that, like I said. And then they meet each other. So basically what they're doing is Fisk is painting Daredevil as the bad guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Framing him for these horrible things, all these murders
All
and
born
everything.
again.
All all of that. So so that's going on. In again, the other thing is to keep the paper from publishing the story. Threatening all these people and like that, and doing it all in the Daredevil suit while Matt's fighting him just in the Black Ninja outfit from season 1. And like I said, just amazing everything being used.
Was he in the black costume, or was he in his suit and he just put on a head wrap in this one? Gosh, I can't even remember now.
Man.
I feel like he had it on under the suit.
Maybe
or something.
that's what it
I think
was.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
So,
But definitely wearing the mask.
Yeah, for sure.
So Bullseye actually wins this fight too. Right?
Yeah.
So Bullseye wins, kills almost everybody. Well, kills a lot of people in the paper, including, I thought, the other Ellison, the other newspaper journalist. Yeah, but I mean, he hit him in the chest with something, but he actually survived.
With scissors or something?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and he's even in the next episode, he's still laying there on the floor.
Yeah.
I saw that. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
and they weren't like over him tending to him, so
No.
I thought for sure he was dead.
Yeah, I thought he
me
was just
too.
assumed, but later
Yeah.
on he's in the hospital. So
Yeah.
I'm actually glad. Because since we don't have Urich, he's kind of taken over that
Yeah.
role. So and that's another character that's actually grown on me a little bit, because the first time when you think he's almost a bad guy and
Right.
not
Yeah.
being loyal to Ben, and then at the end they kind of clean up that and
Yeah.
and he's played by Jeffrey Cantor. So it's nice to know that he's not around. Still, we're in episode 7 now. Still no Vanessa.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm wondering when could they get her under contract? Maybe they're just going to talk about her. I thought we're going to see one of those things where like there's a helicopter coming in with her, and then the helicopter turns around and goes away, or something like that. That's what I'm thinking.
But we didn't, thank goodness.
Melvin Potter's back.
Yeah.
And he has the saw
Wearing a
blades.
T-shirt very similar to something else.
And he's got the blades again, the
Yeah.
saw
Yep.
blades. So that was a nice little touch. He gets manipulated by Fisk. We actually get to meet what's his
parole officer,
girlfriend.
yeah,
parole officer.
Emily or
I can't think of it now.
I didn't even write down her name.
Oh,
So,
Scott.
Yeah. But anyway, Fisk manipulates Melvin,
Yeah.
so to basically try to get Daredevil caught in the act. Gosh, I'm sad I cannot remember her name, so it'll come to me eventually. So.
Right. Like Ellison, you just spit it out like.
Well, I finally found it in my notes.
Okay.
So there it was. So episode 8, upstairs, downstairs. So Fisk kills the final straw, like he kills Julie, which was like the one little piece of sanity that Bullseye had left. So that's Bullseye's basically done with that at that point. They continue to show Bullseye just killing people with this random objects,
broken shards of glass, just anything.
Anything he get his hands on.
Yeah. Again, no playing card. We don't get the playing card kill, but and then this is the episode where they finally confirm. Matt hears Maggie upstairs in the church praying and says that she's his mother. So with that finally is confirmed at this point. I don't have anything else on. I'm just kind of trying to do as close to sequential as I can. So
I binged this show in like 2 days, so this is all kind of a blur to me.
Yeah.
Breaking it down by episodes, it all kind of runs together.
Yeah. So episode 9, Agent Nadeem. Of course, all these characters are here all throughout. We're not talking about them the whole time, but he decides he's going to come clean with his involvement with Fisk. So he brings in his supervisor, brings in internal investigations, internal affairs. Going to his boss's house, which is conveniently under construction with plastic at this point.
Tarps everywhere.
Yeah, so he comes clean, and then his boss kills the internal affairs, frames him, so now he is Kingpin's pawn as well. So we find out that the financial things, which we thought was what was going to turn him, is actually how it kept him down, and so intense on solving this case. That he was more focused on it, so it was kind of again this all-powerful knowledge.
Manipulation.
He was intent on his job because he thought this was going to lead to a promotion, which would be more
that's what
pay,
he's doing.
which would help dig him out of the debt he's in.
Because that's what he keeps going up to his supervisor with. She says because she's the one who warns him. Say, hey, what they get into this, they find your financial problems.
So you
you're
feel
not
like
going to
she's
get
a
this
good guy,
promotion,
but
but she's not. You find out that she's actually working with Fisk all along.
One of many.
Because he's like turned a handful of agents at least, that are here.
So we get more of Matt talking to Wilson Fisk again. He's like at the gym, right, and he's talking to Fisk. I kept waiting for them to pan off of Fisk and pan back on, and I kept one of these times it's going to be Mephisto. and then it's going to pan back off. It's going to be Fisk again.
Right.
I guess that would have been too much for the non-comic book person.
That's too big a budget.
Yeah,
for these shows.
yeah.
Well, it didn't have to be like just one little scene,
Right,
just a little
bit.
but that would have been too much, I guess. So.
Fun enough. It'd been awesome. Which episode was it too? That another little just a moment for me. I was just a little excited beyond what I should have been. Was at one point when there's some. Is it the FBI? No, it's the other. It's after it turns out that Fisk is basically running all the gangs behind the scene, even from his quote unquote prison of this luxury hotel that he's put in as part of his deal he made with the FBI, which again was all set up, it was all orchestrated from the beginning by Fisk. At one point they're all meeting and they were just like the gang, and I think it was the other heads of the gangs are like talking, and somebody says his name. We say we don't even say his name in here. We just call him by his code name. And they say Kingpin.
Yeah.
I was like, oh!
Yeah, I think that was in the FBI meeting with the turned agents. They were saying that when Nadim first sits in there, he says Fisk, and they say we don't say his name.
Right.
Again, kind of going back to the first season with him, too.
So, that was right up there with the white suit for me, for them to actually call him Kingpin instead of just calling him Fisk. It was like, oh, sweet. Yeah.
So episode 10, we finally find out about the whole how Karen's brother died, right? Because that was kind of, it's been hinted at it, and she's had all this guilt about it. So we get that full backstory. Karen's a big party girl and a drug dealer, right? Which is actually sort of not really taken, but it's kind of similar to her backstory that she gets in the Kevin Smith, Daredevil run.
Right.
So as soon as we get to the fight scene in the church, that's exactly where my mind's going. It's like, okay, Bullseye's there. He's gonna, and Karen's there, and we even see, Bullseye throwing a club, or was it a club or was it a candelabra in this one? Because I'm trying to think if he had.
I think it's a club because that's what's sticking out. Later,
So he had the billy clubs. I couldn't remember exactly what it was he threw, but in Karen's eyes go wide, but
got a close up of her.
Yeah, we get the priest.
Father
Lantham has stepped in front of her, so that and. I guess that's kind of a redemption for that character because he had known that Maggie was his mother the whole time. And there's several flashback scenes with him and Matt and with Maggie, and he's had plenty of opportunities to let Matt know what the truth was.
The first seasons, he's been the moral compass. He keeps Matt kind of
sort
on
of
track.
a surrogate father for Matt, after his dad died and
so
stuff.
Just the absolute feeling of betrayal that Matt felt, by like her, and then on top of that him, because he's had so many opportunities.
So I was thinking they were maybe actually going to kill Karen.
I totally was too. I was totally taken to the Guardian Devil story.
Yes,
that's where she died.
And Father Lantham was played by Peter McRobbie, and he's another character. I'm sad to see this character go too. After Urich, he's the next character. I wish they could keep him around. But in hindsight, it's like they're not going to kill off Karen Page at this point.
No.
They're going to keep her around.
To me, this was the only episode that was a little bit. Did we really need a full episode devoted to Karen's backstory? I don't know. I think maybe
I feel like it could have happened earlier in the season,
right?
Because
you've got spread out a little bit.
Yeah, you got so much momentum going into this
that it just felt.
And it's like you come to a
put
hard
on the
stop.
brakes.
It does.
Yeah.
But then it picks immediately right back up. At the end when we get this whole fight scene here, it's. Still a good fight scene.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't a bad episode. I'm not just saying that, but it's just like, there's a lot, and she blames herself for everything that's gone wrong and all this stuff's happened. Not saying it's not her fault, but it wouldn't have been all okay either because her brother's definitely going to prison for arson. Because so that's a whole thing there too. It's just like it wasn't going to all be rosy because he shows up at her drug dealer's boyfriend's house, and Karen and her boyfriend pull up. And the trailer's just fully engulfed in flame, and just her brother set the fire. To cause him pain and hopefully break them up and do all this and all that. So I mean, it was her. It shows her responsibility for his death and everything like that. But
that's one of the problems that we run into in comics a lot of times is that there's something that's a mystery and you just know little pieces of it. And sometimes it's better off to just leave it that way.
Right.
Because it's like, the Gambit origin. Gambit was a super popular character, and then he didn't have an origin, right? And then everybody was, we need to know his origin. And as soon as they told his origin, nobody cared about the character anymore.
Right.
It's just like, it's not as good as what I thought it should have been. So they could have just, kind of left it as it was. We didn't really, need all this. Just know
she has a dark past.
Yeah.
A hint at it and maybe show a few things here and there, but get the full thing. And then just the pain of, I know wasn't her father's backstory? Wasn't he a scientist or something in the books like that? And he was responsible for some weird government project in the books or something like that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, here he was just a cafe owner, and that was a bone of contention between Karen. They were just propping up this failing business where she had other plans. She was fulfilling them by being a drug dealer's girlfriend, but so not good. But yeah, she was. So they were just struggling at the end of what Reggie drove in the family, but then and all this stuff with the sheriff saying you guys have been through enough, so I'm not going to prosecute Karen. All this stuff after the accident.
Right,
so that's how she ends up in New York. Fresh start.
So episode 11, we get Fisk gets released from his incarceration now because the public has now seen Daredevil. They're now blaming him, so basically they're undoing Fisk's convictions. But this happens really, really fast. It's like the same night he's all of a sudden, released from released, and he quickly turns. Like there's a crowd out there protesting him, and basically within minutes he's got them, in the palm of his hands. In this episode too, Bullseye actually is able to tie Sister Maggie to Daredevil. So now I'm thinking, oh great, now she's gonna die as well. Right. Episode 12. Finally, we get Vanessa and Fisk reunited. So we get to those last two. The actress's name, Ayelet Zarur. I've never seen her in anything before, but spot on for Vanessa.
Oh, yeah.
I assume she lost the streak in her hair while she was abroad.
Oh, yeah.
What happened there?
She didn't have it in season 1.
Yeah, she did.
Really?
It was there. I remember that specifically.
I'm about to watch that again because I've watched the first season 4 times and I do not remember the streak.
If it isn't in there, I'm remembering it wrong because I swear it
you
was.
Were projecting.
I absolutely
you
was.
May have been
because I remember thinking when she showed up, "Where's the streak in her hair?"
Well, because you didn't see her for a season, she just forgot.
Yeah,
because she wasn't there in season 2.
No.
So, but and of course, D'Onofrio is great as Fisk.
Oh,
but
man.
I tell you what, watching him through this season, I don't know that his health is the greatest. Because if you when you're watching him walk downstairs, it's like he's struggling to walk downstairs, and like in his fight scenes, I mean, he's like throwing his. And when I saw it in season 1, I thought he's just they're throwing him, showing his full body around just because that's his style of fighting. But now I'm starting to wonder if he's just physically is like in pain or has problems or something.
I mean, you don't think that's just performance on his part?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I would take the walking.
Yeah, that's because
But again, he's getting up there though too.
Yeah, he's not a young guy, and
no.
I mean, I don't know that he has because the way they shoot him, they make him look so much bigger than he is. Because it's always from a lower angle.
And you can tell the way the suit's cut is to give him a bigger physique.
Give him a bigger frame. Yeah, like that. But I mean, hey, did he put on weight for that? That's not he's good on your body.
No.
To put
and he's
on
one of those
weight.
actors that's done that before.
Yes.
I was seeing something online where talked about him, gaining a lot of weight for that role in Full Metal Jacket, right? And then having to lose it again. And if people do that to their bodies, it's just really it's tough on them. So,
but yeah, I mean, this Daredevil. I mean, he was so good in season 1, but I mean, for me, his performance and just the arc and everything else in season 3 has developed. He's my favorite MCU villain.
Oh,
I mean, I mean, I think. There's been some great ones, Keaton's Vulture, and stuff like that. So good. But I don't know, just his performance in this, it was just way on another
level. If he doesn't get nominated for an Emmy,
something,
that's a bias against superhero projects.
Sure.
That's all it is. There's no reason he shouldn't be.
Yeah. Just his acting style for that, it's just so melodramatic and cheesy and shouldn't work.
Yeah,
but
it's so big and broad, but he just pulls it off perfectly.
And just the enunciation
the
of
voice,
everything he says, and just the phrases he uses and how he's it's just amazing.
I feel like just about any other actor would ruin that part.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. But he just pulls it off so well.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so this is the wedding too. We see the wedding of Vanessa,
or is that
that's in the last?
Is it in the last
episode? Yeah, so that's in the last episode.
Okay.
So, but in this one, we see that Vanessa wants fully in to what is going on in the Kingpin Empire, and I think, and I don't know if there's going to be another season of Daredevil, which is very, very unfortunate. We'll talk about that later. But if they have another season, I would be fine with Vanessa as the
yeah.
as the crime
the
lord
heavy.
there, and that fits with the comics, and I think this actress is up to it. So,
Because they in this episode where he lets her in fully, and basically he's just, I think we need to leave Nadim on the hook. His usefulness and all that, and she's like,
No.
wouldn't it be better off to eliminate the
Like,
threat?
why
exactly.
take the chance?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Chance,
So-
kill him. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also been in the hotel. There's been Fisk is able to decorate his place as part of their agreement as he wants. There's been this ongoing plot thread
Rabbit
about
in
the
the
painting, the rabbit in the
snowstorm.
snow painting, this the all white painting from the first season, and it's not there, and it's not there, and they track it down, and there's this, he has a meeting with this little old lady, right, and she he explains he wants it. He'll offer her any amount of money that she wants. And she basically says it's not for sale. It belonged to my family. It was stolen from us. I guess it was stolen
Holocaust,
during the
yeah.
Holocaust.
Yeah.
And she's Jewish, and he surprisingly says, you can keep it because that's what Vanessa would have wanted. Right. So in this episode, though, the picture painting magically shows back up, and Bullseye retrieved it for her, and we learn he retrieved it with malice.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
there's blood stain on the back of the painting, so
Yeah.
we basically know that he killed her, and that's not, even though Kingpin is evil, I guess, as you could say that he is. I mean, he has a certain level of integrity, and this makes Bullseye a little bit of an issue. So.
Yeah, because his whole is this, I had intended it for to remain with her kind of thing,
Yes.
like that. But then Vanessa looks down, she sees the blood on the painting, no reaction.
No
She's like
reaction.
totally cool with that.
Yeah, and as far as
She asks if he's like, or Bullseye's basically saying, I'm the new Wesley. But Kingpin's like,
no,
no.
you're not.
Yeah, and as far as the subplot with the painting, it's like that's not a far-fetched concept. That's a real thing that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
As far as ownership of some of these paintings,
Oh,
and
for sure.
there's definitely publicized accounts of this, and that was a real thing that happened. Painters, under the Nazi regime, had paintings stolen from them. Man, I don't know. We could go on about this,
yeah.
Right.
but like that's not like something they came up with for
No,
this
no,
show. That's
no.
that's a real thing that has
there was a
happened, and
lot
it's a
of
terrible story.
Stolen,
at that.
smuggled out,
Oh yeah,
people that gave their
you
lives.
hear about
But
that
yeah,
constantly,
absolutely.
even now. That's
Yeah.
there's still like there's a lot of people in the nation of Israel there's suits against all these museums all across
Yeah.
Europe that have pieces of artwork that actually belong to that were stolen during this time period. So, so we get to the final episode. Right.
Yeah.
So Murdoch is able to put Julie with Bullseye, so he sends Bullseye to retrieve Julie's body. Now that's what flips. So Matt's been saying this whole time, we got to kill the Kingpin. We got to kill the Kingpin. And of course, Foggy and Karen are saying that's not what you need to do, but Matt's like, the only way we can end this is if we kill the Kingpin.
And you can understand his point of view at this point too.
Oh, sure.
Like he's been 2 steps ahead of them the entire time. It seemed, at a certain point, you've got to. Anybody, I think, would say the only way to stop him is to kill him.
That's a common thing, like in any comic book. It's like Batman and the Joker. Why doesn't the Batman just kill the Joker? As many people as the Joker kills, why not? Well, because we got to continue to write stories.
Exactly.
Right. So it's that trope, I guess, that we get in any comic. Where you have this suicidal guy. Why don't you just kill Bullseye? Why don't you just kill the Joker?
Right.
So but anyway.
Back to the retrieving of the body scene, though, in the
Yes.
cooler where she was.
In the fridge.
Who else was in there? Because they show a couple of their bodies first. One of them looked like Potter to me, but I couldn't tell because they had so much makeup on the corpse.
Yeah, I didn't look that close. That's
And
a good
I
question.
need to go
hope
back
it's
and
not.
look. I do too.
Yeah.
But that's totally who it looked like there for a minute.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and kind of double check that.
Because were there 2 bodies?
There were 2 other bodies, and she was on the other side of the room.
So that would make sense. It would be Melvin and Betsy.
Betsy.
I didn't have it written down. I just remembered. So Betsy. I think
I don't think they showed
Now
Betsy.
I'm
They
upset.
showed the 2 other corpses, but one of them looked like Potter to me.
Oh,
But I'll have to go back and see.
Yeah, I had to look into that. I didn't. I was so focused on
And
Julie.
not the last time we'll see Julie. She shows up in a later scene.
Yes, she's a passenger
Yeah.
in the vehicle. So Bullseye's got the Daredevil costume on, and he goes to face down Kingpin.
Wanted to use the carpool lane, so
So Matt has been able to manipulate Bullseye to do his dirty work, basically, and Bullseye's out to kill Kingpin, and we get a pretty good fight here at the end too between the three of them. But ultimately, Matt stops Bullseye from killing Kingpin. And then Kingpin breaks Bullseye's back. I kept waiting I didn't really, people have been thrown into walls like that before, and they get up and they're just fine, right?
Yeah.
So I kept
in movies,
not on TV, but in movies. I kept
not in real life.
My concern to this was like, oh my gosh, Bullseye's going to wake up and going to kill Vanessa. I don't want to see that happen. So I kept, and it didn't happen. It's like he never got up. It's like, okay, all right, that was kind of a big surprise. And then I was also hoping once he was down, that we would get that last scene where he would be in the hospital and Matt would be there with a gun with one bullet. And people make a big deal about that Russian roulette issue. I can't remember what issue of Daredevil that was. But they're saying, Matt he was suicidal at that point. And he would have killed himself. It's like, no, he knew where the bullet was. Right. Anytime he's got the radar sense, he knows where the bullet is. So he's kind of playing that out.
And again, no visualization of the radar sense in this, is there, in this season? Because they didn't do it last season either.
No. So anyway, I don't know. That's where that mention of those issues 196 to 200. Now they never said adamantium, and I don't know if they can in the
I think if they can't work for the Bugle, I bet they probably can't bring up adamantium.
Yeah. So, or maybe when this was being filmed, it was prior to Disney and Fox.
And that's not finalized yet either. Yeah. That's the other part of that. They keep mentioning that when people are talking about movie plans and things.
So that, and then we get that post-credit scene where they're rebuilding, rebuilding Bullseye. So.
Kind of see the logo in the eye.
But again, for a character who's never been referred to as Bullseye, and why not? Why couldn't that just been like his FBI nickname or something?
Right, yeah.
Because he's obviously a crack shot,
Right. Obviously.
Because Disney already has a Bullseye. Toy Story. Yeah.
You got me, man.
Oh, okay.
Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, the only other thing, too, my only other nitpick with the series, with this season, is that last episode. After all the dust is settled, I don't know if you're done talking about the plot, but it's the thing, this whole subplot of this, Foggy running for DA,
right?
This whole thing, Foggy's running for DA to put, to try to take steps to put Fisk away, put Fisk away using the law. Matt wants to put him down. Foggy still believes in the law, so that's whole subplot there. But at the end of that, and he's conceded the race, to DA Tower and all this and all that. So we get another scene, a family scene. We find out that there was pressures put on Foggy's family by, they got a crooked loan from, and this is all again orchestrated by Fisk. So my only other beef was that final scene where it's, the great ensemble of Matt, Karen, and Foggy. They're, did that strike either of you as just like a little bit too lighthearted? There is really nothing that happened in that season. I know it's this tremendous pressure off of it.
Yeah, that's where I feel like that's where that's coming from.
Fisk was put away, was taken care of. But it's just like there was nothing that happened in that season that would lead to the flippant, lighthearted Matt that we got. Right. You know what I mean? It's just like, I understand they finally won. They think they've got it. But it seemed a little bit too...
I guess you could say that since he decided ultimately not to kill Kingpin and actually saved him, that he had turned at that point.
Yeah, okay. But I feel like that's a combination of what you guys are saying. Gotcha. It kind of plays into this.
I really think they just did that scene because the title of that last episode was A New Napkin.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why they did that scene is so that they could, instead of having Wilson and Murdoch, they could do Wilson, Murdoch, and Page on a new napkin.
Right. Nelson,
right? Or Nelson. Nelson. What I said.
They're not going into. They're not going in with Fisk to a law firm.
Man, when you try to string too many
Karen
words together.
Is their investigator.
Yeah. So that was why I think.
I guess they just wanted to rebuild that relationship
and kind of tie it back to the beginning, right?
And again, if you don't have that, that's a bummer show and a bummer ending.
I know, and I understand they had to end it on a positive and all that stuff, and I get that. It just seemed a little bit too much. A little bit, but very minor again. So, Rank it.
Oh, so this is this one was a very fine near mint 9.0 as far as grade for me. This is way up there.
Oh yeah, so I meant grade it, not rank.
Yeah.
It.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
but no, I'm totally with you on that. Near mint 9.0 for sure. To me,
I'm going very fine with it. The suits, were a sticking point for me. Like it's still great. Watch this show, but there were just a couple things that kind of irked me, and the thing like Fisk taking out Bullseye, it's sort of a culmination of their relationship. I kind of get that, but I would have. The thing is, there's not enough super heroics from Matt Murdock for me on this season. He should have been the one to take out Bullseye. I feel like, and again, this is typical of the character, is like he's so beaten down all the time. But like I guess they were even talking about this on the Howard Stern show, going on about how much he just gets beaten down all the time, and it's like, is he still a superhero?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it has a cumulative effect over the season. And otherwise it would be near mint all the way. But it's just these kind of sticking points with me.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean, they beat Fisk down. You need to end on a positive.
Right.
But he's beat down constantly for him to be, hey, guys, let's get the band back together.
Right.
It's just like, what? It seems a little, maybe think about that a little harder, be a little bit more reticent.
And despite the fact that he has like the radar sense, and the heightened sense, he doesn't really have any superpowers.
Yeah,
so
he's not invulnerable.
No.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, so it's a little different character there. So.
Yeah, and that works for the character too, especially when you have a threat like Bullseye, who's just dropping people.
Yeah.
He can take out Matt just as easily.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just levels of skills.
And that's what the radar sense is what saves him from Bullseye. Allows him to compete against him. So, but I just that whole fight scene. I cannot get past that fight scene in episode 6. I just oh my god!
It's one of the cool things in the last scenes to me. And again, Daredevil never gets the red suit back on. He's never back in the suit. But the ninja outfit and the way he just have his forearms and fists tied in those ropes with the knights on it. Nice. Oh my god, that just was really cool looking. I don't know, just the way it made his forearms look so big and everything. It was just
like
really
a Frank
cool.
Miller drawing.
Exactly. So it's just like really, really cool. So obviously we all like this.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like we could just do a whole other podcast about Vincent D'Onofrio's performance. He's so good.
I mean, just so
in that, and it just looks like the comic book version. As close as you're going to get in real life.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously can't have somebody that proportion,
right? But he pulls it off pretty good.
Yes,
and just, like I said, the way they filmed, the way they shoot him, the angles that they choose, and everything. Yeah,
and I hope I'm wrong about like his health and his ability to. I hope I'm completely wrong about that. But I would, like I said, if we do ever get a 4th season, I would be okay with Vanessa. Maybe just for one season, being in charge.
Jason Aaron used her a lot in his Punisher run too, and with Kingpin and Vanessa in there. There's some really good
Garth
stories
Ennis,
with her.
I think used her pretty extensively too, didn't he? In his Punisher stuff, the more mature Marvel Knight stuff. I'm pretty sure that she was part of that.
I'm not sure. I don't think so because they never really had Kingpin in there. He kind of strayed away from the superheroes.
Okay, so I just remember. I know Jason Aaron, Dillon drawn stuff.
It's the Jason Aaron run.
Okay, all right.
It's the Jason Aaron Max that came after Ennis.
Okay, all right.
Because that was his thing, kind of bringing in those characters that Ennis never touched.
I just assumed that was Steve Dillon that it had to.
Yeah, I know. But it's pretty much up there with the Ennis stuff though too. That's the other thing.
All right. So one of the other things we wanted to do, maybe before wrapping this episode up, is with the whole future of I'm sure you've know by now. We know that Iron Fist Season 3 has been canceled. We know the Luke Cage Season 3 has been canceled. We don't know what that means.
Yeah, and something we talked about a month ago on here when we were talking about Iron Fist, we asked why haven't they canceled this show?
Right.
Shortly after we did that, they did.
Yeah, and not only Iron Fist, but Cage.
And Luke Cage.
And that was like a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, considering how that season ended, I know. I'm not that.
It was totally unexpected. I don't think they expected it making these shows.
But I mean, that's the problem. When you set up stuff like that, you don't always know it's going to pay off.
Right.
Video games are terrible about this. They'll have some cliffhanger for a sequel that never happens. So it's like you kind of have to lead anymore with your best foot with these things.
Right. So the whole thing leads to wild speculation, and nobody really from the Disney camp or the Netflix camp is really talking about what's happening. Could it mean just we're going to get Heroes for Hire instead of those two things? But of course then there's also the theory that this pretty much is wrapping up the Netflix stuff. The only thing I think that's in production is Jessica Jones season 3 in production and a go, or we haven't really heard? I know Punisher 2 is.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I meant to look up before we recorded to see what's out there.
Taking those two things off, I think only leaves on the schedule is Jessica Jones 3 and Punisher 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the assumption is that those are still a go, probably because they're already in production. Why are they pulling the plug on all of it? Are they just changing directions? You know, we really don't know. So this is all just speculation on our part here.
What I'm hoping is that the cancellation is like a false negative news, so then when they can come out and say that they're giving us Heroes for Hire,
Right.
that everybody's all of a sudden excited.
Yeah.
Whenever I heard it was just Iron Fist that had been canceled,
Right.
I was like, okay, they're going to do season 3. It's going to be Daughters of the Dragon, and it's going to be different. And I was okay with that as well. But now, I'm thinking, well, Netflix probably doesn't want to. We don't know the terms of at least I don't know the terms of the Netflix deal with Disney. But I assume that when Disney's streaming starts, that they're not going to want to renew the contract with Netflix.
Right.
And I assume that everything that Netflix produces, Disney, even if
the rights
Netflix
to.
can stream it, Disney will also be able to stream it. So anything they create at this point, they're just giving free
And
content
that's
to Disney.
Exactly.
And
that's
that's
one of the things. Just like, why should we invest money and make stuff for Disney?
For Disney,
It sounds like that's kind of what the money's on at this point with all this.
Right.
And, like, why do stuff that's just going to end up on Disney's app? Because, once Netflix loses the rights to this, it's made by ABC Studios. Disney owns this.
Yep.
It will be going to there. I also, this might have been on Bleeding Cool, saw some speculation as to Disney doesn't want R-rated content on that app.
I heard that too.
Right.
And that with the DC app launching, they may be repurposing Marvel Unlimited to something more like the DC Universe app, where you have TV shows and movies and things on there too, in addition to the comics. So that might be a workaround for them.
Well, nothing in the Netflix series, in my opinion, deserves an R rating. PG-13 for sure, but I don't think any of the content is R, because you get no F-bombs and you have no nudity. So I don't know why.
I mean, there's some risque stuff in there, but I don't. Yeah,
But not full
I don't know.
on
I can't
No.
see it being under the Disney banner though either.
No.
Well,
Jessica Jones. You think that's a Disney show?
Well, I mean, Disney's produced a lot of stuff that's
Right,
They
but
usually
it's
do it
through
every, like,
Paramount or
Triton
something
or,
like that. But
something
it doesn't
like that.
have Disney. Like, this will be Disney Play is the name of this app. Parents are going to be buying this for their kids.
Yeah, and I think the first
know.
time a PG-13 rating was ever put the Disney title on it was like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? And that
Was it?
Yeah, I think that was the first time anything more than PG had the Disney
Right.
banner on
Wow.
it. So
Okay.
So I mean, if that's any indicator, and I know that was a lot of years ago, that's
Right.
as hard as Disney wants to go is Pirates of the
Well,
Caribbean.
that's kind of been the thing too since they bought Marvel, and have this, now we've got the Fox stuff. Where does that leave that content?
right. 'Cause
We're
there's
getting-
a lot of death in the MCU, but there's not a lot of blood.
Yeah,
you know what
no.
I mean. And that
There's a lot of resurrections in the MCU, too. Except the characters I wanted to bring back.
for sure.
But, and now we're getting this PG-13 re-release of Deadpool.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know what I mean? Don't tell me that's not trying them hedging, like, well, see, we can do a successful PG-13 Deadpool,
I'm looking forward to that. By the
I mean,
way.
yeah, they're saying it's extra scenes and stuff
Yeah.
too, but I'm saying like they've also had very successful R-rated movies
Right.
that Disney's not going to want to do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But those movies that they're plugging as being successful R-rated movies, those would have been successful PG-13 movies as well. And I think they would have been as successful or more successful
Probably
as
more.
PG-13 because they would have had a wider audience.
I mean, yeah, that's the convention, as far as making the money anymore. But again, back in the '80s, R-rated stuff made money hand over fist.
Yeah, but it
know.
it didn't make the money that the wider audience could do.
I mean, I think back then it did. We saw merchandise and toys targeted towards kids of R-rated movies back then. I know that's not going to happen now,
Right.
of course, but I think there is a precedent for it.
Well, just going purely from the standpoint of what the movies make,
Right.
Not from the licensing and
But that's
merchandising.
it-
Well, I mean,
inseparable these days.
you can't get away from that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing too. Is how you're going to how we're going to merchandise or market Deadpool toys to kids. Whereas if you have a PG-13 version of it,
Right.
that can be done.
I mean, there's Deadpool toys in the store right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They do it. It's out
done.
there.
Yeah.
You can go buy Marvel Legends Deadpool figures at Walmart.
Right,
You
right.
know.
Yeah.
But that's a comic book version, not the movie
Yeah.
version.
Right. Yeah. But all right. So
So I don't know. So what everybody
What do
think?
we-
I mean, do you
I
think?
I feel like what is announced is going to be the end of it. If I
I
had
do
to
too.
guess.
I do.
I would not be surprised if they didn't pull the plug on any shows that they have allegedly in production.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't see him doing that.
yeah,
Right.
really, you don't think so?
Nah.
I mean, so you think we'll see Punisher 2 and Jessica Jones 3?
I would. I hope we do. I hope
I
we
do
see
too.
more of most of this stuff. But yeah, I can't see them. I mean, they've already sunk money into it at this
Exactly.
point. And what are their obligations to Netflix?
And what
at
are
this
their
point, you know?
obligations to the actors?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You know,
Well, it's probably pay or play.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
They'll
that's true.
get paid either way.
Either way.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
And
So,
of course, I
mean,
really do want to
obviously
see the
Netflix
next.
is flush.
I want to see the next
Yeah,
Punisher.
I
I
do
could care
too.
less about seeing a third season of Jessica Jones. It's okay. But,
Yeah,
but I
right.
do want to see another Punisher, and I
Oh,
want to see
yeah.
another Daredevil. But we're not going to get that.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
And again, this is a decent ending to Daredevil
Yeah,
too. If
it
this
is.
is all we get.
Yeah.
And again, who knows what they end up doing? We're
Yeah.
not privy to any inside info here.
Not at
But
all.
maybe they do continue these on the Disney app.
Yeah.
In a couple years, we do get more seasons of this stuff.
Because I can still make very compelling stories and tone it down a bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. So all right. So
Well,
there's
we
that.
Okay, so I thought we would maybe just wrap up with just ranking the Marvel.
If it ends today,
Netflix.
if all the
Yeah.
Marvel
So yeah.
Netflix
So,
is
there's
today.
no more.
so we have 11 shows.
Yeah.
Okay, let me
right?
count. Let me count real
Yeah.
quick.
Make sure. Yeah.
See what I
11.
forgot.
Yeah, so we got 3 seasons of Daredevil, we got 1 season of Punisher, we got 2 seasons
Yes.
of Cage, we got 2 seasons of Jessica Jones, 1 season of Defender, 2 seasons of Iron Fist.
Yep.
So we got 11 seasons,
Yes.
right? So should we start at the bottom and work our way to number ones?
That's fine with me.
We could do that.
I think we're all going to agree what number 11 is,
Yeah.
right?
Number
All right, so
11.
number 11,
Iron
yes,
Fist 1.
Iron Fist season 1.
I've got Iron Fist season 1.
Wow, that's a
What?
surprise. What?
Is this going to be the only time we agree?
Yeah, so there's I don't know, we
It's
might
unanimous.
We might agree at number 10 as well. That's obvious. I mean, I don't think anybody. I actually talked to somebody the other day who said they liked Iron Fist season 1. I said, "You are in the minority."
You slap him in the face.
You're just
I'm
wrong.
not a violent person.
That,
Right.
that didn't turn you violent?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it did not. So
I don't know.
All right.
Number 10.
number 10,
I've got Iron Fist season 2.
Iron Fist season 2.
I've actually got Defenders.
Oh, okay.
I did not.
You're wrong, but
care
that's
for-
okay.
I did not agree to disagree.
Yeah,
No.
I can actually. I mean, the only reason why I just Finn Jones is just terrible.
He is terrible.
He's terrible, and so spoiler number 9 is Defenders for me. So
Uh-huh.
Finn Jones is the cause of those 3 being at the very bottom.
Yes.
And I was torn on these 2 just because the stuff at the end, implying the Matt Fraction stuff,
Yes,
and all the Daughters of
exactly.
the Dragon stuff was actually pretty cool.
And again, I
but
think-
Finn Jones is so bad.
He's so bad.
Yeah.
But again, I really felt nothing compelling about Defenders at all.
Yeah,
You know
no.
what I mean? Other than Matt being dead.
Yeah.
Really? And I didn't like the Stick got killed. I hated that.
I didn't like the way Sigourney Weaver died. She was supposed to be
She was
big,
a total waste.
waste.
Total
That
waste of an
Yeah.
actor of that caliber. And then, but Finn Jones is just pretty much irredeemable in that role. But again, like I said, last podcast, I think we talked about Iron Fist 2. At the end, by the end of Iron Fist season 2, I felt the story was compelling. They was still awful.
Yes.
But I felt the story was compelling. You know what I mean? It was a
Right.
better story to me than Defenders was. Story, acting aside. Okay.
So 9, I have Defender season 1 at 9.
I had Iron Fist 2.
2, okay.
I've got Luke Cage season 2 at 9.
Wow.
Really?
Okay.
Okay, we diverged
Justify
in
that.
that.
Yeah. Here's where we're breaking off. So because I cannot remember names tonight. The bad guy in
Bushmaster? Okay.
He was so good.
Yeah.
He was, but we didn't get that
The
big
story fell
climax
apart.
with
Yeah,
him.
but, yeah, but still.
That's the thing, though.
He was
It's
good.
the ending for me that just that
See, and
falls
I
apart.
like the ending. You got the Bushmaster stuff. You get the
You get the confusing nightclub ownership. Is
Right.
he gone bad? I don't know.
Burn it down or just
Well, you know what?
embrace it.
We'll never know now. They're not
Yeah,
doing
they're
another
not
Another
doing
season.
it.
unless we get Heroes for Hire, which probably isn't going to happen.
Yeah, then
Right.
how do you tie all that in?
Okay. So,
okay.
okay. Number 8. What do you
Okay.
got for 8?
I've got Defenders for 8.
Okay.
Again, lackluster, but I feel like it was a little better. I feel like, they learned from Iron Fist some on that, which you think they would have used that on Iron Fist season 2,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but here you are.
Yeah.
What'd you have for 8?
For me, number 8, and again, it's not based on the quality, it's just a grueling Jessica Jones one for me.
Okay, so I had
was
Jessica
number
Jones
8.
2 for number 8.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Tenet was amazing. There was some good acting, but it was just so grueling for me. And this is personal. I can understand why nobody would rank that because the quality of it's good is just so brutal,
Right.
I had just the David Tennant stuff alone pulled Jessica
I
Jones
get
season
that.
1 up for me.
Yeah,
so.
kind of with me too when we get there.
All right, so 7. Okay, I had Cage season 1
Me
at
too.
7.
Me too.
It's just all it is Daredevil season 1 done again in Harlem instead of Hell's Kitchen.
I've got Jessica Jones season 2 for 7.
Okay.
I've got.
My whole reason too, and I think we both might have talked about it. For me, Cage 1, I felt wrong watching it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just like I didn't feel like it was for me. It's like my superpower cultural appropriation. You know what I mean? It's just like I feel like I'm watching and participating in something that's not for me. You know what I mean? So it's
And
just
I had that feeling. Well, I could not watch it when my kids were in the room. And my kids are 18 and 20. I couldn't have it on.
Yeah,
I was
right.
watching it with headphones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Yep.
it just that would be the one thing. Like that one, they may not want to stream on Disney, even though it would
Yeah.
only be technically PG-13. I could totally see them not want to stream that on Disney. So
Just thematically.
yes. So
So when you were
6,
Jessica
yeah.
Jones 2?
2, yeah,
Two,
for number 7, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Dan, you're first on 6. What do you got for 6?
For 6, I've got Luke Cage season 1.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you got? What's for 6?
I got Jessica Jones 2.
Okay, I have Jessica Jones 1 just
Okay.
because of David Tennant is the
Yeah.
only reason. And to me, like, there's a line here. Like my top 4, they're like 9.0s or better, and the rest of them are like 5.0s and lower. I mean,
gotcha.
there's a
Right.
huge
Huge
gap
gap.
between 4 and 5 for me.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. Anybody
So
want to say anything about their number 6?
Any show with a Charles Bradley cameo is going to be higher for me on there, so there's that.
And what was yours?
Luke Cage season 1.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, oh yeah.
Mike, what do you got for 5?
5, I got Luke Cage 2.
I also have Luke Cage season 2. So,
Okay.
So
For me, for number 5, I've got Jessica Jones season 1.
okay.
Okay.
So we're all going to
So
agree on
we're-
our top 4.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And at this point, this is where that line is where there's a big jump
Yes,
in quality.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess for Cage season 2, I felt a little less of the cultural appropriation.
Yes,
watching
exactly.
It,
I felt it had a little wider appeal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And I liked Bushmaster.
Bushmaster.
I liked what was her name? The girl who was the daughter.
Nightshade.
Nightshade, yeah, and I even liked at the end that when
they
she
had
comes
that-
in with the correct hair,
Yeah.
and so I really enjoyed that. And even Shades was a little better in that season.
Yeah,
so
he definitely had more to do.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so
Okay, this is probably what we're down to, but probably just different orders. For
yeah.
us.
Well, I mean, so what? We only have 4 left.
Yes.
Right? So we got 3 seasons of Daredevil and Punisher. So we all
Punisher.
agree that these are the best 4.
Yes,
Yeah.
by
Right?
far.
Okay. So all right. So my number 4, and these are tough to put in order for me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say these are so close. It's tough to put in order. So my number 4 is Daredevil season 1.
Yeah.
What do you,
My number 4 is Punisher season 1.
okay.
Okay.
What do you got, Mike?
I got Daredevil season 2. So none of us agree.
Yeah, none of us
Top
agree,
4,
so-
but we don't agree.
All right.
And my sole reason for this, I mean, the Frank stuff was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The Elektra brought it down that far to me.
Really?
Yeah, I did not like the Elektra stuff at all.
Other than the kid Elektra, I actually
Yes.
enjoyed the kid Elektra
Yes.
scenes, but I did not like the adult Elektra
Right.
scenes at all because she was just a whiny rich girl.
Exactly.
And Daredevil's, and I don't know why. I mean, really, Daredevil 1 probably should be higher on my list because that started it all and
Right.
got me excited about
Right.
what could happen.
Uh-huh.
And it also set a very, very high bar for
Absolutely.
all of these
Oh, yeah.
series, which
Yeah.
is why some of them are such disappointments that they did so well and could continue to do so well.
I mean, my whole thought was season 1. I think I've said this to about everybody before we got Iron Fist. If the fight choreography is that good on Daredevil, it's going to be insane.
oh, yeah, for
on
sure.
Iron Fist.
Yeah.
You know, and what we got was so mind-shatteringly disappointing.
You got
You know.
Tai Chi
Yeah.
instead of Kung Fu.
And gray boardrooms. Right. So, okay.
Yeah. So for me, I've got Punisher as number 4. It's just mostly because it rehashes so much of what we get in Daredevil season 2. If it kind of went in a different direction, it would probably be higher on my list.
Gotcha. So,
all right. So
number 3.
Whose turn is it?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
You go.
Okay, for 3, I've got Daredevil season 3,
Okay.
which we just talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Again, quality, good stuff.
And I also I have Daredevil season 3 as number 3.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
because the Bullseye stuff is I think really what pushed season 3 over season 1 for me. So
Okay.
I mean, that's really what it was. And I have a bias for my top 2 is probably probably why my top 2 are where they are at. So all right. So
For my number 3 is Punisher season 1.
I thought you said season 3 was yours. Oh, I'm sorry for number 3. My bad.
No,
You hadn't said yet. Okay.
No, I hadn't said.
So we didn't all agree on number 3.
No.
Okay.
So Punisher 1 was for me. It was probably for the same reasons Dan said. You know, I mean, I really liked the Punisher. Well, really, it wasn't. It's just that I couldn't justify putting that above Daredevil. You know what I mean? That's basically what it came down. I couldn't see moving Daredevil, those 2 seasons of Daredevil, out of the top 2 for Punisher. You know, I mean, that's just me. So,
All right.
and what'd you say your 3 was?
My 3 was Daredevil season 3.
Okay.
So, yeah, I thought we all three had
Okay,
Daredevil season
yeah,
3 as
right.
number 3.
No.
But
So
okay.
Okay. So
Number 2. So I have at number 2 Punisher season 1. So
Okay.
that's my number 2. And I think I just have a bias in favor of Punisher. So even the Punisher has been in so far, I've just really enjoyed. John Bernthal is just knocking it out.
Yeah, he's really good.
And the Punisher stuff in Daredevil season 2 is what saved season 2.
Yeah.
You know, for me.
Right.
So I know, but we probably should be saying them before I start talking about it. But,
that's no.
Yeah, for me, my number 2 is Daredevil season 1.
Yeah.
So again, high up there. You know, started it all off like Scott was saying.
Yeah.
You know, really set the bar for everything else.
For sure. I have Daredevil season 1 as well, but it's a coin toss for me between season 3 and season 1. I could have put either one. You know what I mean?
If he had the suit for the majority of season 1, it probably would be my number 1.
Right.
So
Yeah. But yeah.
so then number 1.
My number 1 is Daredevil season 3, and I know it's just like, oh, it's just the most recent thing you watched. You know what I mean? But I mean, to me, it was the Bullseye stuff. It was the Fisk stuff. You know, more than the heroes. You know what I mean? The good side. It was just D'Onofrio's performance as Wilson as Kingpin in this season, and the addition of the Bullseye storyline. And again, I would be fine if you made me go with Daredevil season 1. You know, I mean, those 2 are really close for me.
Yeah.
You know, but the more Fisk and the level he took it to for me is really what pushed it over for me.
And Daredevil season 2 is my number 1. Again, the electric stuff is weak, but the Punisher stuff just brings it up to a whole new level. And then, like in the season 3 stuff, I bring that down a little bit just because of some of the silly little things that they do and reuse of plot ideas and story ideas. So that's what brought that one down a little bit for me.
So then my number 1 by process of elimination is Daredevil season 2. Again, we finally get him in the suit, full time.
Right.
The only time we did, it turns out.
Yeah.
And again, the Punisher stuff was just so great. Like, the Elektra stuff can be weaker here and there, but the Punisher was so good. I like the Tom Jane Punisher film, but this was just so good. It's just so much of the comics. The whole intro where the news thinks that there's a new gang moving in, eliminating the other gangs, and it turns out it's one man.
Guy,
and it's Frank Castle.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to go watch DD season 2.
Yeah.
I haven't probably watched it as much as that.
But it's
just fast forward through the Elektra stuff.
There you go.
And we got more of the hand and that kind of stuff, and there's some cool things with that throughout. But and just the scenes that Punisher and Daredevil interact were so good. And so much of that was like right from the comics.
Yes.
Oh, and the cemetery scene where they're wrapping up. It was just so good. Yeah.
Interesting.
Just
And again,
so
and there's a Fisk cameo in it too. That when they have him, I'm like,
right when he walks out in the
he's in
courtyard,
prison.
you just see
Yeah,
him, you know,
and he's
that's right.
actually in it for a few episodes as well. So I mean,
And then Frank gets
and
his
then
gauntlet scene, right?
yeah,
Fighting
that
through the prison.
hallway scene with Frank where he ends up with the blood-stained face on his shirt. Like, I was just dying for that. I'm like, somebody get a bloody face on that white shirt. Come on.
And we got the white
Yeah.
Punisher logo
Yeah.
in that one. That
Yeah.
was, you know, they went full on. They gave him this. They give me
him
my
the stuff.
super suit.
Yeah.
But I mean, those top four. I mean, it's like if we're talking about like a 9.6, a 9.4, a 9.2, and a 9.8.
Exactly.
I mean, they are
Yeah,
all,
it's-
they're
they're-
all,
it's tight.
Yeah.
They're all
They're
right
all
there.
nines minimum.
Like,
you know,
I'm,
nine and up.
I'm not going to go back and watch Iron Fist again.
No.
I will go back and watch these again.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
especially if this is all we get. You know,
I've watched. I mean, these I've watched multiple times. Not Daredevil season 3. I've still only watched that one time. But all these other ones I've watched at least twice. And like I said, Daredevil season 1, I think I've watched 4 or 5
Really?
times now,
Yeah.
all the way through. Yeah, it's
I think
just,
it's the only one. Daredevil season 1 is the only one I've watched more than once.
it's just
So
they're
I'm probably
they're
not
so
being
good.
fair with moving Daredevil season 2 down. It's just I don't know. And I think that was the other thing. Looking back at Defenders 2, really, that's what the Black Sky was. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
those little thing after
And
making
that's the
such
thing.
a big deal.
Yeah,
out of it,
and
you
like,
know,
it's
and
finally like,
just-
okay, this is going to be their Avengers.
Yes.
You know, of these TV shows.
Yeah.
And, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah, I kind of chase a rabbit there.
Well, no, and you know, and I totally see exactly where you're coming from on Electra. Like I said, I had that bias that just pulls these Punisher stories up. For me.
Yeah.
So, and that is a character I've liked since I was a little kid. I mean, you know, so anytime there's anything good Punisher, man, I'm all in.
All right, was that it?
That's
That
it.
for us?
So
Yeah, I mean, ranking these was really hard.
It was,
But
yeah,
it was only
good.
tough.
top
The top
four.
four, yeah.
The top four were hard. Yeah, you know, I mean, I think
Because
number 10 was super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 11. Number 11.
Number 11, yeah,
Number
last
11
one,
was
bottom
super
one,
easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So-
that was the only one we were unanimous on, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So take that as a cue.
Cue, yeah.
Three of us all agreed Iron Fist 1 was awful.
Yeah. And if somebody were to threaten to, beat me up if I didn't change my order, these are so close, I would change my order to not get beaten up.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On the top four anyway.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and like I'll go home and watch Daredevil season 2, and I say, nope, it's my favorite now.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who knows? We do this again next week. We might have a
Exactly.
different
Probably
order.
have a different one. Nope, this was really good. So.
And
All
again,
right.
and we hopefully got a couple more series
so.
to go.
Yeah,
So
at least we do
hope
get Punisher
so.
2. I hope Punisher 2 season 2
Yeah,
is as
we
good as
may.
Punisher season 1.
It was,
so.
it was really, really good. Looking back at the Billy Russo /
Jigsaw.
Jigsaw thing going on.
Yep.
So, all right. Will that do it?
That does it.
All right. Well, we hope you've enjoyed listening to us as we talk and opine about the future of the Netflix Marvel universe and talk about Daredevil season and all this other good Netflix stuff. If you haven't checked it out, really do yourself a favor, except for those bottom ones there. Yeah, just pass on those. But again, hope you've enjoyed it. Love to hear your opinions on this. Next time, come into the store, talk about this stuff with us. That's especially on Saturdays. Dan's here in the store most Saturdays. And we'll just come in and have these discussions with us. That's the great thing about having a local comic shop like Campus Comics,
LCS for the
like-minded
win.
people. That you share a common interest. So, again, hope you enjoyed this episode of Campus Comics Cast. This is Mike at Campus Comics. Give us a call at 618-457-6011. Come see us at the store, 816 East Main Street. Open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like us on Facebook. Follow us. Follow Dan on Twitter. But
follow the store
yeah.
on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. So that's my contact info.
Scott Reed, BurgComics.com, BURG. And if you can't find it at Campus Comics and need to track something down, shoot me an email at admin@BurgComics.com. And if I can help you out, I will do that.
And Dan Brown, I'm online at Detective651 on Twitter, WordPress, and DeviantArt.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.